We covered a topic yesterday on stream that was specifically about how censorship is getting absolutely convoluted and out of hand, with payment processors basically shutting down the ability to use their payment processing service for things that they deem to be not good. Not illegal, by the way, just things like games with adult depictions of even whatever they consider adult, basically. This could lead to very, very bad things, but apparently Visa responded to censoring specifically Steam games, and I didn't know about this. They actually put out a statement, apparently, so let's take a look and see what the hell is going on in the land of censorship today.
Imagine trying to buy a game on Steam, only to find out it's vanished. Not because it's illegal, but because Visa and MasterCard decided...
This has nothing to do with legality, by the way. Like, at least right now it doesn't.
You can't buy it. Over the last few weeks, tens of thousands of games have been removed from both Steam and itch.io. And it's all due to pressure from payment processors. This isn't just about a few controversial titles. It's affecting everything from small indie projects to mature but otherwise legal games. It's a new reality where gamers no longer get to decide what they can buy.
Gamers are suffering this year, bro. Not only when you decide to buy a game do you not even own that game, but now the payment processors are deciding what you can and can't pretend to own. It is absolutely abhorrent, dude.
But gamers aren't just sitting back. There are reports of a mass campaign, Operation Fighting Fire with Fire.
As there should be.
Their goal? To bombard MasterCard and Visa with calls and emails, mirroring the tactics used by groups like Collective Shout, who initially targeted Steam.
So they're literally fight fire with fire. Collective Shout did this exact same thing where they basically harass these companies into agreeing with them and going along with what they want. So now people are now using their own tactics against them.
Collective Shout claimed victory with around 1,000 emails, and gamers believe they can collectively shout much louder.
Bro, you could get 1,000 emails from literally one Reddit thread about the most unknown game, probably. This starts affecting Genshin Impact because they literally said, like, anything with depictions of guns and stuff, right? If Navia, for example, Chevreuse, you target a popular game becomes a problem. I guarantee you, 1,000? Brother, 1,000 emails had happened within the first 5 minutes. It'd be within 5 minutes, I'm telling you.
Simply letting MasterCard and Visa know, hey, these games we want to buy are legal. Let us spend our money. So, as gamers express their frustration, Visa has responded to multiple emails with what appears to be a copy-paste response.
What is the copy-paste response?
I've seen multiple different emails, but they all had the exact same reply. So let's see what Visa has to say about the situation. Thank you for reaching out and sharing your perspective. As a global company, we follow the laws and regulations everywhere we do business.
Where is the law that... What?
This sounds fair. Visa says they follow the law. Obviously, if something is illegal, that
are these laws that they're making up?
Is its own situation, and I would agree that it should be banned from Steam. But these games we are talking about are legal, which is the problem. While we explicitly prohibit illegal activity on our network, we are equally committed to protecting legal commerce. If a transaction is legal, our policy is to process the transaction. We do not make moral judgments on legal purchases made by consumers.
Are you dumb? We are equally committed to protecting legal commerce. Clearly not. If a transaction is legal, their policy is to process the transaction. Clearly not. Because you're not doing that. What is this fucking two-faced bullshit? You're totally fucking bullshitting this entire response.
This is a very strong statement. Visa claims they don't judge what people buy if it's legal.
Bullshit.
And if a purchase is legal, they process it. This sounds great. This is what you would assume a payment processor would do. But if you have been paying attention at all to the situation, you would know this is simply not true.
Yeah, it's complete false.
From games to crypto, guns, anime, porn, even energy companies, and so much more. But back to Visa's statement. If they don't make moral judgments, what does that even mean? It means they claim they don't care if content is adult, violent, or controversial as long as it's legal. They say their job isn't to decide what...
There's only a certain amount of times I can say that is absolute inconceivable bullshit before people start to realize that this is just incorrect.
It's right or wrong morally, but just to make sure money moves for legal products. So they are saying one thing, but then doing the exact opposite.
It's hypocritical as fuck.
In the email. Visa does not moderate content sold by merchants, nor do we have visibility into the specific goods or services sold when we process a transaction.
So you just withhold people from being able to spend using your payment processing service for specific goods on a specific website. Example, the games that are rated adult, which again goes against this entirely. How do you do that without having visibility into the specific goods if it's specific games? This makes zero sense to me, dude.
Process a transaction. This claim is also very clear. Visa says they don't look at the content being sold. Visa and MasterCard are intertwined in so many businesses around the world, you can't actually expect them to go through every single one to review and moderate everything. Visa also says they don't see what's being sold when money moves. So if they don't see the content, how do they know if something is quote-unquote risky?
Exactly.
Well, they rely on reports from banks themselves, complaints from the public, or even activist groups to flag a merchant as risky.
I need y'all to think about something right now, right? Genshin Impact's first anniversary. Do you remember what butthurt gamers did? And I'm not saying people were in the right or wrong to be butthurt, but they were butthurt. They didn't just go after Genshin. They didn't just go after Hoyoverse. They didn't just go after those things. They went after Google Classrooms. They went after other unrelated games. What is stopping people in this situation from doing that exact same thing to other companies that aren't selling adult stuff? What if it happens to important shit? What if it happened to chemists and hospitals, food places? What if it happened to other places? And then are you just going to still trust the public judgment? What a bullshit cop-out response, brother. You cannot rely on public word of mouth for a payment processing company to be able to dictate what you can and can't use their services for when it's entirely legal. That is insanity, brother. Insane.
So Visa won't look at every single
Frosty,
game,
think of the
but
2
if a
months.
platform like Steam has a lot of content that's getting complaints, Visa can view the entire platform as a risk, which is how Collective Shout were able to get Visa and MasterCard to listen to them.
Wild.
By painting Steam and itch.io as this very bad place, asking them to demonstrate corporate social responsibility and immediately cease processing payments. But Visa continues.
I still want to know how this apparently very well-known company of Collective Shout, with minimal followers on social media as well, by the way, based in Australia, is having this much pull on some of the biggest companies in the entire world. It feels like a fucking industry plant or some shit, bro. Like, none of this feels right.
In their email. When a legally operating merchant faces an elevated risk of illegal activity, we require enhanced safeguards for the bank supporting those merchants. The last part is key.
Okay.
Visa says if a store has a high risk of illegal activity, they make the banks working with that store take extra steps to be safe. But notice they don't say the content is illegal, just that there's a risk of it. Visa claims that they do not make moral judgments on legal purchases and do not moderate content. But let's compare that to what Valve and itch.io actually said about the recent changes.
Okay.
In classic Valve fashion, they were quiet on the issue, with the only official information we have from them is the new rule change and an official worded response they gave out to multiple different journalists.
What is
In their
this?
response, Valve hinted heavily that payment processors were threatening to cut them off. They stated they had to retire certain games because losing payment methods would prevent customers from buying any titles on Steam. This made it clear that Steam was now at the mercy of these payment processors.
This does not compute with me. Logic has gone out the window, I feel like, with this entire situation, and it's not like it's a small situation. This is not only going to affect games, it's going to affect so much more. This is the starting point. It could be the beginning of the end for these payment processors in general, bro.
Despite
Insane.
Valve's usual hands-off approach to legal content, itch.io was even more direct. They flat out stated they changed their rules because payment companies threatened to block all payments on their platform. So if Visa isn't making moral judgments or moderating content, why were these threats happening over legal material? Is Visa implying Steam and itch.io are lying? Well, the answer is in one vague word: risk. Visa states they require enhanced safeguards when there is an elevated risk of illegal activity.
And this is the thing, they can deem whatever they want to be a risk. Just like with this whole Collective Shout bullshit, they get to kind of deem what is classified as adult content, right? They made a list of what they want the situation to be. That's why this is absolutely censorship and the total wrong way to go about it.
But risk is a broad term. Often, it's not actually about illegal content, but about anything that might generate bad press or public protests. This gives...
Can you use Visa to do things like top up on gambling sites, just out of curiosity, if anybody knows that? Just out of interest, since, you know, the risk of illegal activity at those places is probably pretty fucking high. Can you use Visa and MasterCard at places in the US, maybe like a legal drugstore and things like that? Because, you know, probably the risk of illegal activities happening, even if it's a legal store, is probably pretty high. Let's keep it a buck. Can you use these things at all of these other places where the risk of illegal activity is probably way higher than on a fucking video game platform? Give me a goddamn break, brother. What the fuck is this shit?
Use power to groups like Collective
What is this?
They sent numerous emails, made phone calls, and ran public campaigns, painting Steam and itch.io as risky places, urging these payment processors to cease business, which obviously led into them then pressuring Valve. These payment
Bet your ass you could probably pay off government debt with Visa and MasterCard, right? Bet your ass you could use Visa and MasterCard to give governmental organizations money. Because, of course, the risk of illegal activity in with governments and stuff like that is incredibly low. Incredibly low.
Processors hold all this power because almost everyone uses their cards.
Yep.
So when they label a platform as risky, which often just means enough people complained, they can directly threaten that platform with losing access to their entire payment network.
Yeah, that's wild.
This also isn't just about Steam and itch.io either. We've seen similar problems in Japan where businesses selling certain types of legal adult content have lost payment options from companies like Visa, often under the same risk umbrella.
Oh, look at that as well. It's a manga place as well. It seems to be a lot to do with gaming and media, right? And not other, at least in my opinion, far more important things that are illegal and that have a much higher risk of illegality.
Even Visa's CEO in Japan has been vocally against adult content. This shows a clear pattern. Payment processors...
But again, you can't make judgment based on moral standings, right? That is literally in their response. So even if you're against it, does it fucking matter? I'm sure some people, like at Visa, are probably against people under the age of 21 or 18 being able to buy guns in the US, but they probably still allow Visa or MasterCard to be used to do it, right?
Despite their claims, directly influence what can be sold. If they decide a business is risky, even for legal content, they can effectively shut down that business's ability to operate. So this email from Visa is a clear example of a big company saying one thing, while their actions and the statements of the platforms they work with show something completely different. Now, it's also important to remember, as this video did have a focus on Visa, there are other payment processors involved as well. There are some reports from people calling MasterCard that issues have escalated to a higher department.
Of course, but I mean, Visa and MasterCard are the main two, right? Or is it actually affecting even more? Are even more payment processors taking this route?
As they have been getting calls about this all week. Whether MasterCard's higher department actually...
Nah, they cannot touch guns in the US. Texas will actually go ballistic on them. Okay, but that's just like saying they can't touch manga in Japan because people in Japan go ballistic on them. Guess what? They have. What is starving of money? Like, what I don't understand the whole purpose of this shit, bro. I really don't.
Something is a different question that we will just have to wait to see. While the exact behind-the-scene details of what happened between payment processors and Steam are unknown, one thing is clear. Visa claims of no moral judgments don't match reality.
Bullshit.
They use vague terms like risk to deflect responsibility while controlling what content is bought and sold.
It really does feel like a monopoly, dude.
This situation makes one thing very clear. Payment companies like Visa and MasterCard have huge unchecked power. They shouldn't be allowed to dictate what legal content can be bought or sold online simply by labeling it risky. Because what really is risky? This
up to the judgment of whoever's judging it, clearly, and that's the problem.
Unchecked power must be challenged. Payment processors, with their monopoly on transactions, operate as essential services, like electricity or water. They should be...
Do you think they can also affect websites? Brother, they can affect anything that payment processors have control over. Like I say, this is likely just the beginning. In fact, the starting point happened a while ago, probably if it was already happening in Japan. This is not the end, though. I agree with a lot of things when it comes to, like, not letting kids have access to certain things, but this way of going about it is absolutely abhorrent, and I feel like they're using the whole like women and children in video games, like we saw yesterday, as a scapegoat to get their beliefs forward and get the censorship to a point where they are happy with it. They don't give a fuck about the women and kids, dude. They don't. Clearly, they don't give a fuck. It's not about the women and children. It's not about protecting the kids. Clearly, collective shout when you're fucking supporting a movie called fucking Cuties where it's got twerking 11-year-olds. You fucking freaks.
Forced to provide fair access to all legal purchases.
Freaks.
This is something hopefully we see happen in the future. That's why collective action is so important. From calling and emailing Visa and MasterCard directly to supporting policies like the Fair Access to Banking Act, gamers are making their voices heard. They're now telling elected officials that these powerful companies are overstepping by blocking legal purchases. There are petitions already, with over 100,000 signatures, and I'm sure it will only grow as gamers start to realize how bad this problem really is.
100%.
So what do you think about Visa's email? Do you think...
I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it should be a thing. I think this level of censorship is absolutely fucking wild, and they need to get a grip, and people need to stop bending the knee to this bullshit. I wonder if EU will do something about this. They should, ideally. Bro, the world should. It's not even just the EU thing at this point. It's going to affect everyone. It's absolutely insane.